Hello, I'm Chris Stone and I'm the National President of Speech Pathology Australia. As the peak body for over 5,000 speech pathologists across Australia and a voice for everyday Australians with communication and swallowing problems, Speech Pathology Australia is committed to speaking out for those who can't. That is why we are here today, and we thank you for this important opportunity to address the committee on this vital issue. Today, we are speaking on behalf of more than 1 million Australians, people of all ages who battle daily disadvantage and live enormously diminished lives because of communication and swallowing difficulties. Everyday people who are every day denied the opportunity to achieve their potential or to enjoy such simple pleasures as a meal with family, making the most of their education, finding a job that matches their skills, or simply making friends or knowing the joy of finding a life partner. These are people whose lives are unnecessarily ruined by communication and swallowing difficulties. I'm terribly disappointed that I am unable to be here in person to put the case for action on their behalf, but I'm delighted to provide these brief introductory comments, which will be expanded by the team with you today. Thank you. Each of you probably has a personal experience of someone with a communication or swallowing difficulty. Almost everyone in Australia does. Perhaps a child who was late to talk or who was ridiculed for mispronouncing words, or a much-loved aunt whose speech was slurred following a stroke and who needed specially modified food to ensure she didn't choke. A friend who suffered social isolation because of a stutter, or a grandparent robbed of the ability to communicate their final wishes for themselves or their family by a stroke, dementia, Parkinson's disease, or so many other conditions. What if I told you this was just the tip of the iceberg? That despite the almost universal experience of these issues, most people are completely oblivious to the scale of their impact on individuals, families, society, and the economy. The impact of communication and swallowing difficulty is largely invisible. It ruins lives in ways that are unseen, unacceptable, preventable, and on a much larger scale than you can imagine. For instance, what if I told you that Australians with communication and swallowing difficulties are vastly more prone to mental health problems, to underemployment, and to reliance on welfare than other Australians? What if I told you that being a male with a communication problem meant you were much more likely to become a youth offender and to a lifetime's acquaintance with the justice system than males without communication difficulties? What if I told you Australians with swallowing problems have significantly greater risk of preventable hospital admission, poor health outcomes, and preventable death than other Australians? What if I told you hundreds of thousands of Australians were daily denied their fundamental human right to communicate? And what if I told you we could do something about it? As speech pathologists, we see every day the far-reaching, life-changing and life-limiting consequences of communication and swallowing difficulties. We see the significant and preventable disadvantage these people confront as a consequence. We know they simply do not have the same opportunities as other Australians and are much more likely to be marginalised, disadvantaged and dependent on welfare as a result. We know they live diminished lives purely by virtue of their communication and swallowing problems. We know they number more than 1 million, and we know for many, if not most, their outcomes can be substantially improved with the right services. But we know this information is anecdotal and certainly not understood by most Australians, including our politicians, policymakers, school principals and employers. We believe defining and understanding the scale of the problem is a necessary first step in rectifying this terrible imbalance. We hope you will also be persuaded of the importance of action on behalf of those who cannot speak for themselves. Thank you.